Hello and welcome to another edition of the Welfare Book Club. Today we'll be talking about Good Economics for Hard Times by Esther Duflo and Abhijit Banerjee, written in 2019. Now you've probably heard of Duflo and Banerjee. They are economists who have devoted their lives to alleviating global poverty, and this husband and wife duo, along with another researcher, were awarded the Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences in the same year that this book was published. Recommended by even William Gates, Good Economics for Hard Times focuses on modern developments in research done in the field of economics and offers solutions for troubles faced by contemporary economies such as income inequality, stagnant economic growth, climate catastrophes, and unemployment caused by technological innovation. The one thing that economists love to do is theorize, and most of the time they provide impractical solutions that don't really work in the real world. Duflo and Banerjee, on the other hand, recognize and understand that everything is not as simple as it seems and acknowledge that they, like many other economists, are so engrossed in their methods and models that they sometimes conflate science with ideology, as well as the fact that economists can't predict everything. With a differential diagnosis on the ailing economies, which is super humble by the way, the authors try to show us that politicians, they love to weaponize economic misinformation in order to drive a narrative and spread ideologies. The titular, good economics is the kind that uses robust reasoning to solve some of the most pressing and critical issues of our time, and to also use empirical studies to provide solid arguments. Now, the US is a country where immigration is always a hot button issue, right? And one of the arguments that are advanced is that immigrants who agree to work for lower wages activate a fall in wages. This book tries to clarify this fallacy by stating that there is no reliable evidence to support this claim that low-skilled migrants hurt jobs in regions that they immigrate to. And of course, migrants aren't just workers in a community, they're also consumers. They buy things like toothpaste, bread, tissues, vegetables, they get their dry cleaning done. And so they spend money and engage in the free market. There's also an additional hidden blessing. Companies would prefer to automate their labor. Now, if immigrants are willing to work at a lower wage, they choose not to replace human labor with machines. So a whole section of labor is not automated because of this. Climate change is also a very worrying issue. And it's always kind of felt like curbing climate change is something that only the rich can do. But we're slowly shifting to the idea that everyone can do their part in some way or the other to battle global warming. But there is a disparity in terms of who is most affected, because it is the underdeveloped and the poor who bear the brunt of it all. If the temperature, for example, rises by a few degrees in Oslo in Norway, it would probably feel pleasant and agreeable. But if the same thing happened in Bombay, in Mumbai, in India, we would probably be panting with our tongues out, much more than we already do, by the way. And if that happens, let's assume for a second that the demand for air conditioners increases, which in turn is bad for the environment. And so a vicious cycle is formed. Now, there's also a notion that giving the rich tax breaks would boost the economy, the way that Ronald Reagan, the 40th president of America, did in the 1980s. The argument advanced against high taxes for the rich is that rich people would be disincentivized to work and create output. Again, Duflo and Banerjee state that there is no real evidence that higher taxes on the rich would slow economic growth. In the end, the authors advance an idea of a universal basic income. But Welfare has deconstructed why this is not such a good idea. Another conclusion by the authors is we need to raise taxes to provide resources for programs. Here is where Welfare doesn't concur. Because historically speaking, raising taxes has never really been the right solution and just takes more money from the people it actually belongs to and gives it to governments who generally engage in wasteful and inefficient spending. Plus, there is no real guarantee that these programs would be successful or effective. It's sad because after indulging the authors in their various reasoned experiments and processes, their ultimate solution is to make people give more money to the government, which as far as economic solutions go is pretty underwhelming. The authors also mentioned an experiment of cash transfers in Ghana, and irrespective of how successful the experiments were, a parameter they forgot to take into account is whether they can be funded. Now, Ghana certainly can. Okay, it's one of the richer countries in Africa. It has various natural resources like oil, diamonds, timber, and gold, which can be used to fund this policy. But how do you fund this in countries which don't have natural resources to capitalize on? How does the basic income become truly universal then? So the experiment already seems a bit flawed. There are many new policies like the various wealth redistribution policies that are constantly spoken about, such as the Green New Deal. And just like many economists and politicians, the authors do not really explain or break down where the money is going to come to fund these policies and how it would actually be allocated. There is no doubt that poverty is one of the most worrying issues in this world. And it's heartbreaking to see its magnitude, especially in a time where it is mercilessly amplified during COVID-19. But despite all that, Duflo and Banerjee try to put forth that in the end, all they've done is highlight the problems, not the solutions. And to confuse the two is not in the spirit of true economic reason and just ends up being empty rhetoric. But, let's give credit where credit is due. Good Economics for Hard Times provides a whole lot of data with a broad view of where human dynamics can take us. This book is a fun way to examine crucial issues and deconstruct the distortions that bad economics actually create. The authors hope to capitalize on the laws of economics, which already have its own dizzying complexities and scary mathematics, to get to a point where we can transform into a more humane world. Wealth Fair is certain that the authors have done meticulous research to study the circumstances of poor individuals. So economists must actually act like plumbers and solve problems with a combination of logical intuition, experience, and some trial and error. They're certainly right that we need more interaction and honest, fertile discourse to solve problems. Even if you don't have any idea about economics, you're certainly wiser after reading this book. The way Good Economics for Hard Times is written shows how humble the authors actually are, as all economists should be. It reminds me of what John Maynard Keynes famously once said, that if economists could manage to get themselves thought as humble and competent on the level of dentists, that would be splendid. If you wish to read more about why Wealth Fair doesn't think of universal basic income as a very prudent policy idea, the article has been linked in the description. Stay tuned for more book reviews, interviews, and much more. Bye!